Amanda Azadian, and she is the product manager of digital health strategy for the AMA, an amazing partner with HITLAB. We love working with the AMA and all the good things they're doing in digital health. Take a look at their website to learn more about them. But Amanda was at ViVE, and we're really interested in hearing, Amanda, not only about your background and your own personal journey, but certainly about some of the key insights that you took away from ViVE, particularly given your perspective, right? The AMA is the leading stakeholder when it comes to the physician's perspective in the digital health ecosystem, and they have so many great programs in digital health. Would love to hear what you saw at ViVE that really made your socks roll up and down.
Thank you so much to HITLAB, Dan, Jerry, and team for inviting me to join. It's great to be with you. I live in Brooklyn, so I'm close to New York, but I'm actually in Chicago at the AMA offices today for a quarterly team meeting. And yeah, I'm really happy to share with you insights from ViVE. As a non-physician myself, I have the pleasure to connect physicians to healthcare companies on a regular basis. And we have a platform called the Physician Innovation Network that does that. So that was the hat I was wearing when I came to ViVE, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But Stan and the team asked me to share a little bit of background just so you know kind of where I'm coming from, and then I'll get into some of the key learnings. I was pre-med, I was an athlete, I had an international focus, and then I had a mild traumatic brain injury that actually created a patient experience for me. So I kind of had this experience with the global interest and approach to medicine. And then I realized that there were a lot of things that we needed to change back home. A lot of areas where, I saw opportunity to change health globally were actually opportunities to change things right here in our own cities. And that started in Chicago, where I noticed at an FQHC through my first job in managed care, that the American healthcare system had plenty of problems to diagnose for ourselves in just terms of people getting access to basic care, and how that in my own journey would have really impacted me and my ability to heal had I not had a lot of the access that I did through my family, through my networks, through my education. And so that created a desire to go kind of understand who are the startups that are solving those problems in healthcare. And with a diagnostician hat, kind of seeing how can we identify problems, create business models, and then get clinical validation in the market to build better solutions. And so I spent 3 years at Matter Health in Chicago, which was a really great experience to really just kind of sink my teeth into the clear problems that were being addressed. And Matter had a really big presence at ViVE as well. I would say it was a smaller presence than at Health, which is a lot larger. They had 30 plus companies joining them at Health, as did many other accelerators and organizations. And we saw smaller groups, kind of smaller pavilions at ViVE, which frankly, we heard from the physicians that we brought to ViVE that was a little bit more manageable. It was easy to go to some of those pavilions and just connect with companies directly. Through my role at the AMA, we were able to comp 10 physician registrations to actually go to ViVE for the purposes of meeting with those companies and providing that clinical validation. And that was an observation that we made while I was actually working at Matter in collaboration with the AMA. AMA has a relationship with them, and we found that when we put companies in front of investors, they weren't always quite ready because they needed more clinical validation, but they were stuck in getting that. How do they get it if, they've only been able to connect with those 5 docs that maybe were a part of their founding team, but they really needed to expand out and get a greater depth of feedback. I spent 3 years at Walgreens trying on how corporations could develop a neighborhood health destination, but I'm really happy to be here at the AMA working in digital health strategy. I've been here for about 3 years. I'm seeing chatter in the chat, so I'll definitely respond to that after I'm done speaking because I don't like to multitask. But I will share links and other resources from the AMA related to a lot of our work. Getting into some of the ViVE key takeaways, I will share a reporting of our president-elect, Dr. Jesse Ehrenfeld, sharing his thoughts and experience from an AMA perspective, because again, from the physician voice, we wanted to share that with you directly as much as possible. So it was a tough Tuesday. It was a tough Monday to start the conference, as many some of my colleagues might have mentioned. I wasn't able to join earlier, but they might have mentioned that March 27th being a mass shooting very close to where the conference was being held. And ViVE and Chime had a very quick and immediate response. And then the following day, Dr. Jesse Ehrenfeld's remarks began with the statement that gun violence is a public health crisis. Thoughts and prayers will never be enough, and we need to do something about this. And he was able to share a lot about the initiatives that the AMA has been doing in health equity. So I'll share a link to the Info Health Network that you're welcome to join and check out. But he really focused on a lot of the key requirements that physicians have shared with us through our research that's been repeated every 2 years since 2016. And there's a QR code in the slides if you all share that, but I'll make sure you get it either way. And those 4 key questions are frankly pretty basic, and there are sub questions under those. But first of all, it's, does it work? Show me the evidence. Show me the patient outcomes that this solution is going to affect change in patient outcomes and create a better healthcare for those folks. Second, will physicians be liable for using these solutions? And if you say no, how? What kind of structures do they need to have in place in order to make sure that they're not liable for using this device or patient engagement tool if that data could potentially be at risk of being leaked? Does that put the physician at risk? These are the things that they want to know. The third question is, how or will I as a physician receive payment for prescribing this or for using this particular solution? And that can be kind of convoluted because sometimes the solution designer says, well, we need to figure out CPT coding. That's a great way for the AMA's CPT developer program to be involved in that. There are links to that I can provide as well, which actually provides 2 companies that are pre-revenue, royalty-free access to the CPT code set. So you can understand, okay, what applies to us? Can I talk to a CPT expert because I have some key questions? And you can do that right on the AMA Physician Innovation Network. The 4th question that Dr. Ehrenfeld shared is, how will it work in my practice and what will that integration look like? So that was a deep dive of his specific talk, and I know I'm short on time, so I will also share some of the other key takeaways that we had throughout the conference. One is that the state of VC funding is pivoting to measuring value and outcomes versus that hyper growth trajectory that we were seeing. And we heard that focus on 3 key areas in the VC world, one being consumer experience. So wanting to see the value in that patient consumer experience. 2 being the ROI or the return on health specifically, and how are we measuring those outcomes. 3 being better cost and value to the purchaser, not necessarily the end user, but the purchaser. And just kind of an acknowledgement that point solutions are gone and it needs to be an integrated approach. Stan, I believe I had 10 minutes, so I'm going to pause there. I'm happy to share more throughout the chat, but we'll be mindful of time.
No, it's fantastic and really appreciate it. Yeah, I think we have time for one more quick question, just from the perspectives that you have at the AMA and everything you're doing to bring digital health to physicians and physicians to digital health. What do you see as some of the hot topics for the rest of the year in digital health, and where do you see that focusing?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many folks have brought this up, but AI and ethics is a big conversation at ViVE. It's a massive opportunity for so many use cases, but we need guardrails. We need to make sure that HIPAA information isn't going into ChatGPT. We need to make sure that we're all kind of working together and pulling together. There were a lot of great conversations at Together.Health. I heard the Techquity stage being mentioned. The In Full Health group within the Center for Health Equity at AMA was in full force. So I resonate with a lot of those ongoing conversations. Return on investment, return on patient outcomes is huge. There was representation from the Digital Medicine Society, Savvy Cooperative, hashtag Ask Patients, and we are in full support and in partnership with them. Also from the perspective of the AMA Physician Innovation Network, we think that we need to be asking more physicians for their feedback as well and making sure that we're getting a diversity of physician experiences. Health at home was another really big topic of that migration from the hospital and being able to provide for patients in their own home, keep them safe from infection and things. I heard Cancer X mentioned. I think that'll be an ongoing conversation. And gun safety was a really pertinent topic that I hope continues. It definitely got a lot of conversation during ViVE, and I expect all of these topics to continue after health.
That's incredible. And in relative to the AMA and what it's trying to do in digital health next, what and how can people do to support the AMA's mission in helping really accelerate the development and the adoption of digital health with physicians around the country?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, as the AMA number one goal within the digital medicine perspective is to reduce those hurdles and burdens that get in the way of patient care on behalf of physicians. So that's reducing administrative burden. And there are a lot of solutions that might create that, and a lot that claim to remove that administrative burden. So I think the number one key takeaway is, if you're claiming to reduce administrative burden, show exactly how and all of the components that are required in order to make that happen from an implementation standpoint. Two is, we know you can't get there on your own. It takes a lot to build a solution. You can't build it in a vacuum. You need a lot of feedback in the development of that process. And so the AMA Physician Innovation Network now has over 18,000 users. I think we're actually close to 19,000 now. And when we brought those 10 physicians to ViVE, the purpose was for their learning, absolutely. And you know, they're using their time that is typically with patients to come and continue learning, but also to share their experience with startups directly. That doesn't have to require them to travel. We have a platform that does that on a regular basis, and it is free to those, especially those of the HITLAB network, to leverage. You simply make a profile and then post your question. I will say that paid opportunities where you're saying, I want to take on a consultant for X number of hours, tend to get the most response from our physicians because they're very busy and their time is valuable. But I will be sure to drop those links into the chat so that anyone who's interested in following up. That's from the digital health perspective. We are also working on a return on health framework, which is an expansion of a lot of the digital health research that we've already done. And so we will be hosting another PIN in Real Life event at the HLTH conference. So if you plan to attend, be sure you're on PIN so that you hear about it.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Amanda. Really, really good to hear from you. I appreciate your time today. Have a great trip, and we're looking forward to seeing you back in Brooklyn soon.